We are live.
Awesome. We'll wait a few seconds for everybody to jump in.
Oh, yeah. Let me close out of some stuff. Oh, yeah. Turn off. Other one is okay, off. Okay, good.
All right. Well, I just want to welcome everyone to the May edition of JaxDUG. While we are waiting for everybody to trickle in, I just want to let you know that we're hoping to possibly meet in person next month. Still working on the details of that, but we'll hopefully have that ready for us to meet. If you have any questions, you may put them in the chat window, which is located on your YouTube screen. You may put them in there. We'll be monitoring them during the session and make sure that they get answered. If you're having any issues, you can hit us up there, or you can reach out to us on Meetup. I'll be monitoring that as well during the session. Or if you want to, you can jump on our Slack channel and chat with us there. All right. Well, I want to thank Syed for coming in and speaking again for us. Thanks for taking some time, and hope to learn some cool new stuff tonight. So I'm going to drop off the video and go ahead and take it away.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for having me here, and definitely do love being here. And man, I've been presenting at the JaxDUG for a long time, over a decade, really. So yeah, I was kind of raised in Jacksonville since like the age of 3 or whatever, and moved to Seattle for about 8 years, but then ended up moving back and working from home for Microsoft. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. And I'm a program manager working on ASP.NET features and Visual Studio there. And what we'll be talking about today is creating project templates. And, like the slide here says, those project templates that we'll be creating today, they'll be available in, .NET New, Visual Studio, and Visual Studio for Mac. And let's take a kind of I just have like 3 slides here or whatever. So yeah, let's do a kind of a quick overview of what we'll be doing here today. And I'm not sure if it's going to take the full 2 hours or not there, but we'll see how the kind of questions and comments go. So yeah, so the topics are, how to find and discover and use community templates in .NET New and Visual Studio. Then we'll move on to how to create a template for .NET New. And then we'll kind of show how can I take that basic template that I created and then add 1 or 2 parameters to that, and we'll kind of run through that. And then after that, then we'll kind of take a look at that template, and we'll need to make some tweaks to it to work well in Visual Studio. So we'll take a look at that, and then something that's relatively new is support for solution templates or multi-project templates, and we'll kind of show that experience on the command line as well as in Visual Studio itself. So that's kind of the agenda here, basically. And I guess Jeff, if there's any kind of good questions that come up, definitely let me know as we're kind of going through.
Sure.
And I think I personally cannot reply in the comments section.
Directly there. So you'd have to go to the actual user link to do that. But
oh no, that's fine.
If anything you post in here, I'll push over there. So don't worry about that. So yeah, if you just do it in our private chat, I'll just make sure it happens over there for everybody.
Let me paste everything that I have here into the private chat, and then we'll get these links posted into the public one as well. Yeah, so the main kind of link that you'll probably be interested in for this talk is this aka.ms/netcore-template. So let's go ahead and follow that link. Let me bring my browser here. So this is a repository that contains a few different things. It contains some samples here. There's kind of basic samples of a command line template, and then there's also a couple. Sorry about that. A couple web app templates, a solution template. And then there's also an example of how you can take a template and then kind of wrap that inside of a Visual Studio extension and then deliver your template along with your extension. There's also a lot of kind of guidance here as well. What are For example, here's a link on how to create your own templates, and we'll be going over all that stuff here today. But you don't have to worry about taking detailed notes, because all the content that you need is either on this page or linked from this page somewhere. And then there's also a template analyzer too, and we'll probably be using that through our kind of demo today. And this is an analyzer that I put together that you can run on your templates, and it'll give you an indication for kind of known things that might need to be kind of modified or updated there. But yeah, there's definitely a bunch of guidance here. But let me go into when you're using either Visual Studio or Visual Studio for Mac, we have a preview feature here. So show all .NET Core templates in new project dialog. So you'll have to have this checked for any of the Visual Studio related stuff to be working here. And in the most recent versions of Visual Studio, this should be checked by default. So you shouldn't necessarily have to go here and do anything unless you've unchecked this in the past. Then the same goes for Visual Studio for Mac as well. So they've got this kind of preview features option here that needs to be enabled. And, I think this is enabled by default in the most recent releases of Visual Studio for Mac, but I'm just really not sure about that one. But in either case, all the information that you need is here. All right. So let's go ahead and why don't we take a kind of a quick tour of .NET New itself. And let me know if I did kind of bump up all my font sizes, but if we feel like we need to bump them up even more, definitely do let me know. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a quick kind of tour of .NET New. So the way to kind of explore these kind of .NET commands is to get the help here, and we can either use --h or -h to get the help there. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. So basically for .NET New, you're going to .NET New and then some options, right? And the main option that you're going to be kind of interested in is the name of the template itself. And I'm just realizing that this output doesn't actually explain that for some reason. They've recently kind of made some changes here to this, but anyways, let's take a look at some of these commands here. So there's a list command, right? So that's the one that, if you're kind of curious what templates are included, you can do .NET New -L or --list. And then this will go ahead and kind of list out everything that's been installed or all the templates that are available to you. And, we've got a template name, a short name, a language, and then tags. And we'll be going over all this content as well. And we can see I've got some custom templates, kind of pre-installed over here. Let me close out of my Visual Studio. And what I'll do is I'm just going to reset my templates back to the default, and this is the kind of same state that you're in. And this PowerShell function is available at that AKA link if anybody's kind of curious about that one. All right, so that's what we got going on. So now let's talk about how can I discover and use templates. So I'm just going to go to nuget.org. So there's a couple places that you can use to kind of discover these templates. We'll go over those. And let's say if I'm looking for some sort of API template, I can go to nuget.org and search for API. And at this point, you can use the filter capability here. Let me go into filter and say, hey, I want a template here. So I'm going to apply that. And then here's a list of, various different kind of, .NET Core templates that are available to use. And if I was to drill into one of these guys, you can see that, they'll give the command to actually install that template for .NET New, right on nuget.org, right? So if you wanted to kind of party with this template, you just kind of copy this command and then run it in your terminal, and then it will get installed. And if it's been authored for Visual Studio, they will also appear in Visual Studio as well. All right, so that's one place to look for templates. Another place is I have a website here. So it's .netnew.azurewebsites.net. Try to zoom in on this URL here real quick. So .netnew.azurewebsites.net. So here, it's kind of similar to the NuGet one, but it does kind of a deeper search. It actually looks through the individual templates themselves and tries to kind of look at it through there. For NuGet, they're really just searching through the kind of NuGet metadata there. So this is kind of a deeper search. Yeah, so let's take a look. So this is a part of a kind of a popular template pack that's called .NET Boxed. And then, we've got similar kind of commands here as well. We can copy this install command and then execute that. And then when I'm ready to run this template itself, I can run .NET New API, and then that's the result there. All right, so now let's take another look at, so yeah, that was basically, how to find and install templates. And, maybe we'll just go ahead and install one of these templates as well while we're here. So let's go ahead with this. Okay, so let me go ahead and install this. And before I do that, we can just double check that there's no kind of boxed templates here. Normally they'll show up at the top, I noticed. But yeah, they're not there. So yeah, let's go ahead and install that. .NET New -- install, and then name of package. Okay, great. Okay, so now here's those box templates that we just kind of saw. These were the 4 that have been installed. So I can see I've got the API template, the GraphQL, the Orleans, and the Nuget package. So now I'm ready to kind of party on these and either .NET New or Visual Studio itself, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, that's kind of the flow of, how you can kind of find and discover and install those templates. So now let's go ahead and move on to the kind of main topic here, which is, how to create your own templates here. So that's what we'll go ahead and get off into that. So let's go ahead and fire up Visual Studio as well. And I've got like a bunch of different versions of Visual Studio installed here. So should anything go wrong, it's definitely not my fault. It's probably just some kind of Visual Studio related issue here. Let's go ahead and create a new project. Just going to do a simple kind of command line project here. So I'll search for console. So I got console app, and let's make sure I got the right one there. That looks good. Let's see. Let's name this JaxDUG demo. There we go. Let me go ahead and paste in my path that I wanted to go into. Yeah, that should be good, I think. Actually, what we'll do is, let me actually go back here, get a new folder for that one. All right, so we'll say JaxDUG, and this one here. All right, let's go ahead and create this project. And for the options here, I'm just going to go with the defaults here. So I'll just pick .NET Core 3.1 for this, but you can pick any target framework here. It doesn't really matter. Go ahead and get this project created, and then we'll kind of fine tune this a little bit as well. So we'll say hello world. We'll say hello JaxDUG, and then we'll make some kind of further modifications to this as well. Like for example, let's just add a new let's add a NuGet dependency here as well. Oops, wrong one. Let me add a NuGet package reference here. What's going on here? That was weird. Okay, let's go ahead and browse. Probably install just the Newtonsoft one here. I'll give them kind of some additional download counts here. I think that's recently passed over 1 billion downloads. Give one additional one would be good. All right, so we're going to wait for that to finish up, and then kind of go from there. So while that's happening, let me explain how the .NET New templates are different from most other template engines or template preprocessors that you may have used in the past. So for the other kind of template engines or template preprocessors, normally the way that you would create a template is by taking your code and then modifying it to add tokens, right? Like, so for example, if you're using VS template, you would have to go through in all your classes and then rename the namespace to something like $, root namespace. I can't remember if it's $, or %, but it's one of those two things, right? So you have to go through and modify all your code to where it's got all these kind of, tokens here. And then when your template is processed, the correct value for root namespace would then be inserted here. But this kind of causes a lot of problems here, because what you have is you've got your sample project that you're kind of building and running, and you're maintaining that, and then now you're ready to create a template for it. So you go through and you have to tokenize everything, and in addition to your sample, now you've got this template here, and as you change your sample, obviously you're going to need to change your template too, and there's no automated fashion for that to happen, right? So one thing that I should explain is, the different kind of layers here. So, we've got .NET New, and we've got Visual Studio, and we've got Visual Studio for Mac. And And what those things do is they actually call into a shared component that we refer to as the template engine. And the template engine is the one that's actually doing all the hard work here, right? So whether your template's showing up in .NET New or Visual Studio, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be the template engine that's the one that runs through and processes those, right? So when you have a template engine template, instead of going through and tokenizing your code, we kind of flip that model on its head, and instead of modifying your code, what you do is we create a JSON file, and then we will give indications for which particular strings need to be replaced when the template is processed, right? So this would be one of those kind of magic strings, right? So JaxDUG demo, we're going to get this one to be replaced, and I'll show you how all that works as well. All right, so let me go ahead and open this in the Windows Explorer. So let's go ahead and get that one opened up. All right, here we go. So we can see that my CS proj is right here. Let me kind of zoom in on this a little bit. So this is the folder where my CS proj was created. If I was to go up one level, that's where I see the solution and whatnot. But since we're creating a single project template, this is really the root of my project, right? So this is the folder that contains all the artifacts and all the files that I want my template to contain. All right, so what we need to do here is we're going to create a special folder here, and this folder is going to be called .template.config. And then inside this folder, we need to create a new JSON file. All right, so we're going to call this template.json. All right, so that's fine. Yes, so we'll go through with the rename. Let's get rid of that zoom. All right, so that's what we got. So let me go ahead and, so basically, let me kind of just make sure that this part is known, right? So, you know, wherever this .template.config is, that's the default location for the source root, right? So by default, wherever this folder is, it will pick up the files and folders that are under this, and you know, template engine knows to exclude bin and obj and those sorts of things. So it will pick these files up. But if this folder was somewhere else, it would pick up the other content by default. All right, so now we need to go through and start populating this template.json file. All right, let me go back to my kind of repository here. So whenever you're authoring one of these JSON files for templates, whether it's the template.json or the ide.host.json that we'll see later, the very first thing that you want to do is to actually put in your schema declaration there. And the schema declaration will do a number of things. It will give you Intellisense and Visual Studio. So when we're editing this, we'll get, you know, Intellisense and completions. And then it will also bring validations. So if you were to kind of, you know, type some errors in here, you'll get errors and warnings in the error list. But yeah, the Intellisense is really the kind of the huge part here, and the validation is huge as well. Let me go ahead and close this file and reopen it. That way I get the correct kind of schema loaded here. So now we've got the correct schema loaded. All right, so now there's a set of kind of required properties here, and I've got those listed here in my my repository here. If you were to just go and look for required, you'll see these required properties. But well, there's an indication for required properties in the Intellisense as well. So it might be kind of hard. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. It might be kind of hard to see this, but if you notice, these top like 6 things are kind of bolded here. So those are the required items from a strictly schema perspective, and then the others are they're not necessary. They're optional, right? So let's go through the required list here. So just go ahead and give my name here. So Syed I Hashimi. Going classifications. Classifications, you can kind of think about these as like tags or categories, and there's like a kind of a specific list here. So if I was to search for classifications here, there's a particular list that you want to choose from when you're typically developing these. But you can enter whatever classifications you want besides this. But these are the ones that we kind of list out in Visual Studio itself. So yeah, recommended to use, you know, at least one of these classifications for Visual Studio, but you're free to add additional as well. All right, so let's keep going here. All right, so identity. So identity is like the kind of the unique ID for this particular template. And this is not something that users would see. It's just kind of used behind the scenes. Let's go to the next one. So name. So we'll say JaxDUG, I guess, for this one. And name will appear when you're running. Name will appear here. Sorry, which one am I at? Oh, yeah, this. Yeah, sorry. So let me give it a different name here. So I'll say JaxDUG demo template. All right, so the name field will be shown here. And then let's go ahead and do the short name. Oh boy, let's try that one more time. All right, short name. So here's where we'll just do JaxDUG. Okay, great. And you can have more than one short name, but I think it's probably better to just have one short name. So yeah, the short name will be used here. And then the short name is also how the users will actually invoke your template, right? So .NET new, and then let's try one of these boxed ones, right? So we can see they have an API project here. So I can say API. So that's how I'll invoke it, is with that kind of short name there. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so then we have tags. Okay, so tags is something that's particularly important. And you want to make sure that you have these two tags, for type. Let me just go ahead and add, and yeah, sorry about that. I just popped out the Intellisense. So there's actually 3 supported values here, but we haven't gotten our Intellisense updated yet. We just recently introduced solution here, and I'll show that later on in this demo. But for this one, but you can either use item, project, or solution here. So you'll use item if you're creating an item template, or basically like a single file by itself, and then you'll use project for project templates, and then solution for solution templates. All right, we also have the language tag here, and this is just what is the language of what is the language of this project? Is it C#? Is it VB? Is it F#? And by the way, there's no kind of limitations on languages. Template Engine supports, variety of different languages, and it's not limited to just Microsoft stuff. Template Engine, actually, to be honest, it supports any file type. It's not limited to just, .NET related file types. Okay, great. Let's add a couple additional things in here. Let's go and add the description. So I'll say demo template for JaxDUG. And then I also want to add a default name here. So default name is, let's say when you create a project from the command line, there's a couple options here. You have the -n for, name. So I can say my API. So then that would create a project that's called my API. So that's one option. Another way to do it is you can say that the output path should be, my API, and then that would be a folder. And if there's no name given, it will actually use the folder name for the project as well. So now for default name, this is, what should the name be? What should the name be if the user has not provided a customized name here, right? So that's the default name. So we'll say JaxDUG console. So if I don't pass in a name, this will be the default kind of project name there. All right, so now I think that's pretty much all of what we really need to add here. Let me just kind of double check this through my Intellisense. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, great. Yeah, and there's kind of additional options here, but we're not going to go through all the advanced sort of things here. Okay, so now let me kind of circle back to this JaxDUG one, and I kind of messed that one up actually. So my short name for this template should not be JaxDUG. Oh, wait, sorry, my bad. Sorry, just scratch that. I didn't make any mistakes on short name. That one's totally great. I was getting it confused with an additional one, which is called source name. And this one is very, very special. And all of your templates should have a source name in there. And let me explain how this works. So remember a few minutes ago, I said we kind of turn it on its head, and instead of tokenizing my code, I'm going to take this string and then put it inside this JSON file, and then that actually will be replaced. So source name is a very special one. So what happens is when this project is created, whatever name for that project that is given will then be used to replace source name. So for this particular example, let's say if I create this project without giving a custom name, when I run this, wherever in my files JaxDUG demo appears, will be replaced with JaxDUG console or whatever project name that the user gave. All right, so now let me just, I'm just going to add this string into a couple more places here so that way we can see. And I'm also going to show you a special kind of feature that we have here. So I'm going to put it in all lowercase there. I'm going to edit the project file as well to have this particular string. Jeez. All right, so let me just go and copy what I have here already and just put this into the project file, and then we'll see how this gets replaced. And these replacements are not only for project, not only for the contents of the file, but also for the names of the files, right? Like for example, if I was to go, let me close everything. Let me open this and Windows Explorer. If I was to go and look at this and Windows Explorer, I can see that the name of this file is jaxdugdemo.csproj. So that file name should get changed as well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy. Now we're ready to go ahead and install this guy, right? So I'm going to copy the path. And then, the path that we're going to use, it should be the same folder that's got this template.config folder here. Let me clear out my screen. All right, so the command that we're going to use is .NET new -- install, and you can explore this command too with -h. There's not much kind of special support here, or there's not many parameters that are unique to install here. Yeah, they're just the same kind of basic stuff there.
So, question for you here. Are you doing the command line stuff? Is there a UI interface for this, GUI interface, I guess, that
we will be showing
these?
In Visual Studio is the UI for this. Yeah, is that the question?
More or less, yeah. And then I had a follow-up question too. Is there a way to actually, once you've created your project, just to export it as a template quickly?
Oh yeah. Great question. So in the past, I created an extension for this, and I think it's called Sidewaffle Creator. So that one's on the gallery, and then that one should give you the ability to kind of right-click and say export. Let me bring a browser window here, see if we can find that one real quick. So I can go to marketplace.visualstudio.com and make sure I'm on the Visual Studio tab and search for Creator here. Is that the one? Yeah, this is it. All right, so Sidewaffle Creator, right? So you can right-click and say Create Template. This thing was created a while back or whatever, but it should still be working. But it won't handle any like the solution templates and that sort of stuff. But you could always kind of get started with this and then just move that .template.config folder somewhere else. Yeah, but yeah, that's a great question. Okay, cool. All right, and so when we're installing templates, there's two options that we can use. We can either install from like a folder, which is what I have here. But the other option is we can install from a Nuget package. And for Visual Studio, the local folders don't work right now. You have to wrap it up into a Nuget package and then install that, and we'll get to that. But yeah, you can install. So I already showed how we can install a Nuget package from a remote source. But now let me show you how can we install that locally while you're kind of trying out your template here. So I'll do .NET new .NET. I knew something was wrong there. .NET new -- install, and then the path to that folder. Let's go ahead and run that. All right, so now we should see, yeah, here it is. We see our JaxDUG template. It's appearing here, and let's go ahead and run this. So let me let's go into a different folder here. I can see there's just a couple kind of old folders here, nothing else. So let's do .NET new JaxDUG, and I'll say the output should go into my cool console. And my cool console will also be the project name since I haven't specified -n. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. So let me fire up. Let me open this guy up in Visual Studio itself, and we will take a yeah, we'll take a kind of a quick look at that in Visual Studio, or you know what I'll do? I'll just show it here actually. So yeah, let's just do an ls on this. So we can see I've got my cool console folder here. Let's go into it. Let's do an ls, and we can see that the project file that was previously called JaxDUG demo.cs proj has successfully been renamed to mycoolconsole.cs proj. Let's take a look at the contents of the program.cs first. We can see here, you know, where I had, you know, name was, you know, JaxDUG demo. We can see that one's been replaced with my cool console. And also, you know, if you remember when I was editing this source, I took that same source name and I just made it all lowercase. So now if you notice, the template engine is smart enough to realize that, hey, this is an all lowercase string. So when I take the user's provided project name, instead of replacing it as I would regularly, I'll try to match the form of it. And they call this value forms. And man, I was really confused with that term when we initially kind of came up with it. But you know, it's the different forms of that the value can take here. And lowercase is a special kind of well-known form there. So yeah, I wanted to show you that. Also take a look at the project template here. So it was my cool project. We can see the same thing is happening there. You know, where I had that JaxDUG demo string has now been replaced with my cool console, and similar support for that lowercase. And, you know, once again, there's nothing special about this string here, right? Like, you know, this string could have been anything, but the important part is that you copy it and you paste it into the template.json for source name here. So as long as you do that, wherever this string appears in whatever file you have, it will automatically be replaced with the project name. And when we get to the parameters, we'll see how we've got support for similar support there for parameters as well. So this is really, you know, that's how easy it can be to go ahead and create a template locally. And then if you wanted to, you could even, you know, let's say if you're working in an enterprise environment, you could share these like in a network folder if you wanted to. And but they wouldn't show up in Visual Studio, right? You still need to take the additional step of the Nuget package, and we'll get to that as well. All right. Was there any kind of questions on the basics of, you know, how to create a project template and what we've already kind of gone over here?
Let's see. There's one question. Will tab completion in PowerShell work for template names someday?
Oh man, you know, I thought I had this thing working over here. I thought it was working. There's in order to get tab completions for .NET Core, for the .NET CLI, there's like a special kind of, you have to kind of wire it up into your profile here, your PowerShell profile. Man, and I thought I had that thing wired up. But maybe it's not working. Maybe it's not working here. Let me try my other. Yeah, maybe it's not working here actually. Okay, so I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like my machine's all kind of hosed up here. Yeah, so I thought that was working, but I do know that the team is kind of currently in the process of redoing the actual kind of CLI layer. So if it's working for you, but it's not working in .NET New, then that probably means that when we come out with our .NET 6 release, it should be supported, because that's the release that we're going to kind of change how we do the parameters and the CLI output for .NET New in general. So yeah, so I think, you know, if it's not working now, it should definitely be working in .NET 6. All right, cool. So let's kind of keep going there. So we've already kind of created a basic kind of project template here. So now what we want to do is go through and add some parameters to this basically. So let me go and I'm going to modify my code to have some additional things here. Let's make that full screen. I'm going to add a couple additional things here. So I'll say author, we'll say author name, and then we'll say description. I'll do this, we'll say demo description there for that. All right, cool. So now what I want to do is let me copy these as well. I want to put these into a different file as well. Just going to copy that. I'll just throw these into the project as well. Okay, let's get that going. Okay, great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a parameter for author name here. Let me go ahead and copy that. All right, and then the other thing is, whenever you're kind of working on templates, it's always good to kind of refer back to an existing kind of well-known template. And some of those templates, you can find in my samples repository here under source, and then content, and then template config. But you can also look at the actual ASP.NET templates here. So if I were to go to GitHub, is that ASP.NET? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let me zoom in on the URL. So it's github.com/.net/ASP.NET Core. So in here is the kind of code for ASP.NET Core, and that also includes the project templates. So we go into the code, and inside source, we'll see a project templates folder here. And under web project templates, these are the kind of main ones here that you'll probably be interested in. And odds are, whatever it is that you're trying to do from a template, odds are that there's probably some sort of usage of those in these ASP.NET templates as well. For instance, let's take a look at this Razor Pages one. Inside template config, we'll see a lot of stuff here. Yeah, so we got 392 lines, but these are pretty complicated templates with a good amount of parameters, and also a bunch of kind of conditional content as well. But for the most part, these template.json files will not be hundreds of lines like these. But if you're creating a complex template, it could get to that point. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my kind of sample here that I'm going to be referring to, and we're basically just going to kind of recreate this with this kind of project that I got going on here. So yeah, let's go ahead and add that. So symbols property that we're going to be populating here. So I got my symbols object here, and then I'm going to paste in that author name. So this is this is how the user would use it from the command line. So they'll have a parameter there for -- author name. And yeah, I'll just leave it as author name. I think there's a default parameter called author there, so we don't want to kind of conflict with that one. All right, and for parameters, the type is always going to be parameter there. And let's keep going. So for data type, this is an optional one. I'm going to set it to text, but you can see there's a variety of different choices here. And the implication is, if you set that to a different value, if you set this when you're editing it, when you're creating a project in Visual Studio, it will fine tune the controls that are used for that, right? Like for example, if it's a Boolean symbol, a Boolean parameter, it'll show up as a checkbox instead of a text box, right? But for this one, we'll go with text here. Take a look. Default value. So yeah, this is kind of similar to the default value that we looked at before. So this is, if a user doesn't provide a value for this parameter, what should the default be? And I'll say JaxDUG default author. Okay, so that's great. And then if it's required, you can go ahead and set it to required to true. I would caution you on these required parameters, because if a parameter is required, and if the user doesn't specify that in Visual Studio, it might not work that great today, at least. Yeah, so I think that was it. And what we're going to do is we're going to give this replaces flag here. I'm going to go ahead and copy my author name and paste that guy over here. So got that going. So go ahead and paste that one. And then let's go ahead and create one for the description as well. All right, so it's basically the same thing. We're just going to kind of retype that. So I'll say parameter. I don't even really need to do the data type here because default is text. No description will be the default value. And we'll say, what is it that it's replacing? So this one is what it's going to replace. And I think that's about it for this one. Let's go ahead and save that. Let me go ahead and now that I've made some changes to that template, I'll need to reinstall that template. So let me run that install command one more time. So it was .NET new -- install and then path to folder. All right, now let's just make sure that we see that parameter here, or those parameters. So we can see I got a -a, author name, and a description. Let's go ahead and try this out. See what happens. So I can do .NET. Let me just do this real quick. Let me see what's there. .NET new JaxDUG -a, and last time I checked, this was case sensitive. I'm not sure if that was a bug or it's always been like that. I'm just really not sure. We'll say demo author, and we'll give a description, demo description. And then the output will be my cool console 2, or yeah, that's fine. Take a look at let's take a look at the program.cs to begin with here. All right, so we can see that I've got, my cool console here, and as I indicated here, I gave a value for the author to be demo author, and then I went ahead and populated that as demo author, and then for the description, I've got demo description. That one got populated as well. And then if I were to look at the project file, we should see that same information there too. Yeah, so demo author, demo description. So this is how you can take a kind of existing template and then add a parameter there. And yeah, once again, it's basically, instead of going in and modifying all of your code for, a bunch of tokens, you instead copy those special strings and then add them to your template.json file. And then when it's processed, it just kind of magically gets replaced there, right? And the cool part about this is, your project itself is always in a runnable state. You don't have two things to maintain anymore, right? You don't have your sample and your template. You just have your sample, and that is your template. And yeah, so I think that's really great. All right, so let's kind of keep going, and let me know if there was any questions that popped up in the meanwhile for that. So now, all right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and get this guy ready for Visual Studio. So the first thing that we're going to need to do here is actually put this inside of a Nuget package. So let me open up my folder again, and I'm going to close out of this solution. I'm going to reorganize this a little bit because now I'm going to kind of go into, let me reset my templates as well. That way nothing gets kind of messed up there. All right, great. So now what I'm going to do is kind of reorganize this a little bit. So let me think. So now I'm going to create like a content folder. And then from there is where everything will kind of go in. So let me just create a content folder right here. And for now, I will just drag this folder into it. All right, so now I got my content folder. So now that's where my project is. Let me go back up. So at the same level as content, here is where I'm going to create a new spec file. So we'll say Sayedha JaxDUG demo.newspec. Okay, save that. Let me just load this up in my Visual Studio to edit that. And I'm not like a new spec I'm not an expert with these new spec files. So what I'm going to do is just kind of copy and paste what I already have. And I recommend you to do the same exact thing too. No reason to create these files from scratch. All right, let's just go over these files real quick, or let's go over the content here real quick. So we've got an ID here, so I'll just go ahead and change this to the same thing that I've given the name of the file. For version, we can just go with 1.0.0. It can be whatever version you want. Demo, author is fine, license fine. And then remember when we were looking at nuget.org and we searched for the template there. So let me go back to it one more time. So if I was to do a search and filter, we had this kind of template option here. the way that that gets populated is by this metadata that's inside the new spec that indicates the package type. So if you indicate package type equals template, then that command will start showing up there. And then for files to include, I said, include all the files that are under the content folder and recursively go through and include everything. And then what are the folders that I should be excluding here? So I want to recursively exclude bin and also recursively exclude obj. And then the target is content there. So that means that all the files that gets picked up will be indicated as content from a Nuget package perspective. Let me go ahead and save this. Let me copy this full path. All right, so here, previously I've downloaded Nuget.exe here, and I'm going to go ahead and invoke that. I downloaded Nuget.exe and then put it on my path as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at regular. Yeah, so there's some options here. So we're going to take a look at some of these options too, but the one that we're going to be interested in is pack. So Nuget pack. So let's take a look at what are the kind of, they don't, forget what's the right way to do this for Nuget. I know there's some way to do it. Yeah, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But anyways, it's going to be Nuget pack, and then you're going to specify the Nuget, the new spec file. Let me move this guy out the way. And I think it's like a -- output directory. And then let's figure out where we want to drop this guy. So I think where I want to drop this is going to be inside that temp. Yeah, let's drop it here, and I'll create a Nuget package folder for this. And you can automate all this stuff too, and this is automated in that repository that I have already. There's like a build Nuget script over there. Okay, so I think that's it. So Nuget.exe pack, path to new spec, and then the output directory. Let's go ahead and run that. Just one second here. Definitely spelled it right. Okay, let's go take a look at what could be going wrong here. So where's my other one? There it is. That's the one that I want. All right, so let's go back up. Let's see if we can kind of get this one fixed up here. Oops, that's where I was at right there, dude. Oh yeah, so this is all correct. Let me go and look at my PowerShell file for what's the exact Nuget command that I'm using here. Yeah, so where is the path output? Oh, it's just one dash on there. Okay, my bad. Apologize about that. And there is some sort of way that I could have gotten this here, I know, but it's not working for me for some reason. Okay, so yeah, it was just one dash and then output directory, and then we can see it has successfully created that package. Let's go take a look at that. All right, before I even try this, I'm just going to go ahead and open this up in a kind of whatever your favorite kind of zip tool is there. All right, so I've got content, and what we want to do, we just want to verify that we've got the correct set of things in here. So yeah, now I can see, I've got my JaxDUG project here, and it's got my template.config with my template.json file here. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of that. And then I'm going to reset my templates locally. And then I'm going to start testing that one. So now if I were to do .NET new -- list, if I were to look for JaxDUG, I shouldn't find any. JaxDUG. Should be no kind of JaxDUG coming out of this, right? So there's no match. So there's no JaxDUG. Okay, so now I'll .NET new -- install and then path to Nuget package. So let me copy this path. Oops. Somebody else. Okay, so now this should install that Nuget package. And then all I'm doing here is just verifying that I don't have any problems, that I didn't introduce any problems when I ran through this, when I wrapped it in a Nuget package, I mean. Let me just take a look that those parameters are still there. Those are still there. Let me just make sure that I can kind of still run this as well, just to make sure there's no kind of problems here. So I'll say the output is my console 3. Make sure that everything is in working order. Okay, still looks pretty good. It looks like everything's working well. All right, so we're almost ready for this. So now, You know what? I was going to say that there's an additional file that's required here, but I think that we have fixed that. So let me actually let me close out of my Visual Studio and see if this is showing up or not. So this should be fixed, but if it doesn't show up, that means that we haven't fixed this issue yet. So let me just try to create this. So let me do create new project. And one thing that I forgot to mention was, after when you install a template from the command line, you'll have to restart your Visual Studio for that one to get picked up. Oh, actually, it is working here. Wow, interesting. Okay, so it's actually working here in Visual Studio now. So we're still going to want to introduce that file that I was talking about, though. So one thing that I'm kind of noticing off the bat here is, I got just this kind of default project icon here, and I definitely don't want that. So I want to go ahead and fine tune that one. Let's go ahead and change. Let's go ahead and kind of explore this a little bit. Let me zoom in. So we've got the standard kind of project location input here. On this next page, I should see the author name and description showing up here. Oh, okay, that didn't. Okay, that's fine. All right, so yeah, so let's for the parameters to show up, that's where that additional file comes in, and we're going to go ahead and create that file now. And for any kind of template that you feel like is going to show up in Visual Studio, you definitely want to create these files and this content that we're going to go over here. All right, so the file that we need to add is called ide.host.json. And once again, all this information is inside that repository that I shared with you previously. I'm going to go and grab a file that I'm going to go and grab a icon that I can use for this. And I'm just going to grab it from my own kind of samples here as well that everybody has access to, so that way they can kind of follow along. Let's go ahead and copy that. All right, so this file is called icon.png, and then the file that I created previously was ide.host.json. All right, let me fire up my Visual Studio. Let's go to continue. Let me open up this ide.host.json file. And then at the same time, I'm going to go back to my samples. And then what we're going to do is we're going to first grab the schema declaration for this particular file. And it is different from the template.json file. So you definitely want to make sure you get the right schema and the right file there. I'm going to close that file and open it up one more time, so that way it gets it's pre-populated there. That's not the right one. This is the right one. All right, let's go ahead and kind of explore this. Let me open up the content over here as well, so we can kind of take a look. So yeah, this is kind of more kind of lightweight here. What we're going to do here, the primary things that we're going to do is basically set the icon, so I can see icon, and it's just icon.png. And for the icon in particular, right? So the icon file has to be in or below the .template.config folder here. So here you can see I just put it in this folder itself, but you can have folders here, and the icon could live in one of those subfolders. And then you'll just add the relative path here and the icon declaration. And then what we'll do is we need to give an indication for what parameters do we want to be surfaced in Visual Studio here. And the schema here is not totally up to date, so I'm going to do a little bit of copy paste here. So yeah, so basically in general, a project template can have a bunch of different parameters, and typically how it works is you'll typically have more parameters available for the command line user than you will have for the Visual Studio user. Normally those command line users, they're more interested in kind of nitty-gritty details, and they don't mind seeing a whole bunch of information. But for the Visual Studio side, we typically try to keep it just to the most kind of important parameters and things that most people would be interested in. So that's why we see stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and create so ID is, what's going to be what's the ID of the parameter from the template.json file. So let me go ahead and grab my template.json file and bring that guy back as well. So this one's author name. So I'm going to copy paste that one. Make that one a little bit smaller there. All right. And then after that, you also have the opportunity to kind of customize that name. So, we saw earlier from the command line that when I go through and I do help, it just shows up as -- author name with no space. And, obviously that makes sense from the command line because, you don't want a space in the name of your parameters because, then users are going to have to like quote those or whatever. But when you're working in Visual Studio, that's not the case, right? So in that case, we want to kind of customize that one. I'm going to say that the text for that parameter, instead of author name with no space, it should be author name with the space. And then I'm going to say is visible true. Okay, great. Now let's go through and add a similar kind of thing for my description. Once again, I'm going to go and copy and paste this. Go there. That's fine. Okay, great. Just take a look at this. Okay. All right. So that looks pretty good. Let me copy this full path. Let me recreate the Nuget package. So the Nuget pack step. So we're going to have to run this Nuget pack step again. Let me reset my templates as well. And by the way, resetting templates is a couple things, right? So there's a command that's .NET new --debug reinit, and this will reinitialize .NET new back to the default. And then it also does another thing as well. So in your users folder, there's a .template engine folder here. So this contains a cache of the templates. So that reset templates will blow this guy away as well.
Okay. And there was a suggestion for the Nuget help pack to do it without dashes. Someone suggested that.
Oh, okay. Nuget, let's try it. Yeah, I knew it was possible. Maybe it's just help pack. Is that how it is? Okay, yeah, that's how it is. Okay. So Nuget, it's Nuget help pack instead of the other way that I was expecting. But yeah, we can see there's that output directory there. And man, I knew this stuff was showing up. I just forgot what was the particular syntax for that one. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion there. And I'm sure that's going to be very helpful for a lot of the viewers as well. All right, so now, we did recreate that Nuget package. I've reset my templates. Let me go ahead and close and reopen Visual Studio, and then if all goes well, this should be working. Let's go ahead and try it. One thing that I forgot to point out was the kind of template analyzer, but we'll circle back to that one. All right, so it's going to go ahead and kind of discover all the templates and whatnot. I can do another search for... Oh, you know what? I never even installed that template. Let me go ahead and run the install command one more time. So .NET new --install path to Nuget package. All right, so now just verify that it's there. Now we can go ahead. All right, so now we can see that, instead of having that kind of default icon, now I've got this kind of customized icon, and that was the icon.png that we showed there. So let's go, let me zoom in a little bit. We're going to do next here. So this is just, your standard project name and location. Same thing that all the new project experience will get. Okay, so here's where now we can start seeing those parameters here, right? So now I got author name here, and if I was to kind of hover over this, if I had added a description inside the ide.host.json, then that description would start appearing here, but I didn't end up doing that. So let's say the author is author from VS. Let me tab here, and I'll say description from VS. Lower, let's go ahead and create this, and if all goes well, it'll go ahead and create our project, and it should change the the name of the project, and then also there's the author and description field there. Yeah, let's take a look. All right, so I've got my project here. Let's kind of zoom in on this a little bit so I can see. Oh man, where are we at? How does this work? All right, so we can see it's JaxDUG console 2 as expected. And then let's kind of double click on the program.cs. And we can see that the author name was successfully modified. The description was successfully modified. The namespace was successfully modified. These guys were updated. And then if I were to go and take another look at the project file, we'll see those same types of kind of updates happened in the, a lot of weird stuff going on my machine over here. For some reason, it's not opening the project file. I'm not sure why I did that. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So we can see that, those replacements have been made as well. Definitely as expected. All right. So that's kind of like, let's kind of recap what we did there. I think we did a lot of things, but also I think, it was relatively simple and relatively straightforward, right? So we created a template. We created a .template.config file, and that was located at the root of where my template content is. We populated it with some kind of options here, and that's not the right one. Keep getting confused here with these two. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Where is that folder? Oh, it's this one way over here. Okay, yeah. So we created a template.json file, and it's got about 20 some odd lines inside of it. We added a icon.png to the folder itself, and then we created a ide.host.json file. And then in addition to that, we also created the new spec file here. So this is what the new spec file looks like. And what we did was, we took the new spec file and we packed it with Nuget.exe pack. And then we installed it with .NET new -- install path to Nuget to Nuget Package. And then at that point, it's made the template available, in .NET new and in Visual Studio, and also works in Visual Studio for Mac. And they also work in Writer as well. If you're using Writer, these templates will work there as well. So that's really great. So yeah, that's the basics of, how can you create a template that you can surface, both at the command line with .NET new and inside the various kind of IDEs. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions on that. I'll give a pause real quick, and yeah, let me know if there's any kind of questions on that. I know we definitely covered a lot of material here.
Yeah, nothing so far. Someone said this is awesome. So
this is very awesome, dude. Especially if you've ever tried to do this with VS Template in the past, like, wow, this is really, really tough to do it with VS Template. A lot of these things, but I think this is really super simple and super straightforward.
Yeah,
and also, by the way, that Sidewaffle creator that there was a question that came up about that, saying, how can I do this? How can I do this with some sort of UI support, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me kind of explain the way that I'm looking at this, right? So first, the very first kind of step was, hey, let's add support for community templates. Let's get that going in .NET new. Let's get that going in Visual Studio itself. Let's make sure that we flush out all the details. Like, for example, support for multi-projects, not only in .NET new, but also in Visual Studio. Let's make sure we got that all going good. And let's make sure we have a great kind of end user experience there, right? And then after that, then I'll be trying to see what can we do for the template author themselves, right? So that would be the step where I start looking at, export template and all that sort of stuff. But we're not quite there yet. We're still working on kind of nailing the end user experience here. And there's more work that we need to do as well. Like for example, Visual Studio users, they shouldn't have to go to the command line to install things, right? So first I want to get that problem solved in Visual Studio, and there's some other things that we need to kind of work on. And after we get those things done, and after the end user has a good experience, then we're going to start looking at features for template authors. And, I hope that makes sense as well. But, in the meanwhile, people can use that Sidewaffle creator. And if that one gets, some pretty good usage, then, I'll be happy to kind of update that as well. All right, let's go ahead and
Here's a question. Yeah. How does the CLI handle templates with the same short name?
You want to definitely avoid creating any templates with the same short name. But if you do create a template with the same short name, then we can use the name. Oh, and I gave this a bad name actually. This was a bad name. I should probably just do something kind of similar to this. Then you can use the name property for that. So we can think about short name as like, the short name, but then this long name should be unique, and there shouldn't be any duplicates here. So you should be able to use that longer name there in the case that there is some sort of conflict. And I think the other thing to kind of maybe mitigate conflict would be you could add additional short names here in the case that there was a conflict there. So I can add, foo or whatever here. But, generally I try to avoid that. That should work. Yeah, so I think that was a great question. Okay, so now what I want to do, I'm going to go here and I'm gonna make some changes here. That's gonna mess this up. Now I want to show you the template analyzer that we have available for everybody too. And the way that you install that is right here. So if I was to go back to aka.ms netcore-templates, it's that same repository that we were looking at before, or to do this. So this is the kind of install command here. So, .NET tool install -- global sayedha.template.command. And, I've already got that guy installed. So let's try it. Templates -h. So I see there's two commands here, a search and an install and an analyze. And you're not going to be interested in this search one here that does some kind of crazy stuff. But you will be interested in this analyze command. So let's do a -h on that one. We can see I can analyze either packages or folders. In this case, I'm just going to analyze a folder itself. Get the path to that folder. Copy full path. And I'll just do the folder that contains the .template.config. This tool will actually recursively search under this directory for .template.config. Okay, so here, those things that I hosed up a couple things here. So we can see, it says, hey, you're missing the language tag here. And then there's also some warnings about framework. So framework is a special parameter, and we do always encourage users to create a framework parameter here. Let's go and take a look at what a typical kind of framework parameter looks like. So even if your project only supports a single framework, it's still good to go and add the framework parameter, because then when a user is using it, they can see what framework is selected. And then they know, what they need to have installed over here. So that's why it's always kind of recommended to have a framework parameter there. But, it's a warning. It's not necessarily required, right? And then some other kind of, and then that was really about it. And then the language one there. So let me go back and undo those changes that I made. All right. So we're back to square one. And, it checks a whole bunch of other stuff too. And all that stuff about what it checks is on the repository as well. All right. So now if there's no other questions on, kind of single project templates, then what we'll do is we can kind of go ahead and move on to multi-project templates or solution templates. What is it that we need to do to, what do I need to do to take let's say if I have an existing single project template, what do I need to do to make that into a multi-project template? That's the question. All right, so let me reopen that solution. Let me close this one. Let me open this guy. Actually, you know what? That's not even going to work, is it? Because I moved it. Okay, so let me move my solution file back to where it was. Okay, great. Okay, so let me try. Oh, that's not going to work. Let's close out of that. Let's drag it over here. Okay, so now I've got my JaxDUG demo console project here. Let me create I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to create a new solution folder. So let's say apps. I'm going to create another solution folder called libraries. I'll just say libs, I guess. That's fine. I'm going to move this JaxDUG app into it. I'm going to create a class library project here. For that. Yep. And I want to give it that same name. You remember when I created this template, the short name was JaxDUG demo. And I want these projects to be replaced in a similar way. So I'm going to say JaxDUG demo dot, So this is a library, so I'll say lib1, or we'll say shared, I guess, right? That's more kind of realistic. So let's go ahead and do that. The target framework doesn't really matter here, so I'll just go with the default here. And I think the console project itself was 3.1 as well, so that makes sense. Definitely having some sort of performance things going on with my Visual Studio over here. I apologize about that. I don't know what's kind of going on with this build over here. All right, so that's great. Let's create another. I'm going to create another app actually. So I will create a web app over here. So let's go and create an ASP.NET Core web app and JaxDUG demo.admin web, I guess, something like that. And add that to the apps solution folder. That's fine. We'll go with all the defaults. Yeah, the machine's running a little slow today. Sure, what's going on with that? Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a project to project reference in these apps to that library that I created. Here we go. All right, so now I've added that. We can see I've got my kind of project reference there, JaxDUG.shared, and you should see the same here as well, JaxDUG.shared. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so now let's go take a look at this in Windows Explorer here. Let's go and make this a little bit bigger. Okay, let me zoom in on this a little bit. All right, so we can see under the content folder, I've introduced two new projects here, admin web and shared. And here's my original console project. And also the solution file is here too. So now the first thing that we need to do is we need to take this .template.config folder and move it up one. Because now, I'm trying to create a multi-project solution, right? So this folder is not the root of the source that I want to use to get for that template. Instead, it's now one level up. So you go and paste that here. Right, so that's my, that's my template.config. So now this is the root, and it's going to pick up everything. It knows to exclude .vs, obviously, but it will pick up the solution file and these additional folders for the projects. Let me go and let me reset my templates. Let me close out Visual Studio here. All right, now let's recreate the Nuget package. Okay. All right. So now. All right, so 7:12 p.m. That's correct. I just want to kind of open this up in my favorite zip utility here one more time, just to make sure it's got the additional content and there's nothing unexpected here. All right, so I see my solution file. I see my, oh, you know what? There was one thing that I forgot to do here, but we'll go back to it. I see my .template.config and then those additional folders that I've just modified here. One thing that I forgot to do here was I forgot to update my template.json file to indicate that this is no longer a project template, but it is a solution template. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's just take a look here. So project, this is solution. And like I said, we're working on updating the schema for that, so we can ignore that warning. Let me close out of my Visual Studio again. Let me reinstall, let me recreate the Nuget package. What's going on? I got it open here. Let's try that one more time. I think, did I reset? I reset my templates, and then I will go ahead and install that .NET new -- install path to Nuget package. That one's here. All right, let's try it. Hopefully this all goes well. Yeah, so I can see I got my JaxDUG one there. If I was to just run this, .NET new, oh yeah, there's one additional thing we want to do here. .NET new JaxDUG show my cool console 4, I believe. Okay, great. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we can see now, instead of just that single project template, I got multiple here. So we're going to go through and open this in Visual Studio and take a look at the result. All right, let's go to open here. And, we can see that all the folders were changed. The names were changed to My Cool Console. Let me just zoom in on this. Let's talk about this for a little bit. All right, so the original console template that we had was JaxDUG demo, so it replaced the whole name there. And then when I added the admin web one, it was JaxDUG demo.admin web. So it has replaced JaxDUG demo, but left my admin web, obviously. And then the same for the shared kind of class library, right? So instead of JaxDUG demo.shared, it's mycoolconsole4.shared. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the solution and see what we get in Visual Studio. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I got my apps and my lib folder here. Let's take a look at this. So in my dependencies, I should see that project to project reference, and I see it there. Oh, you want this one? And this one, I should also see my other project to project reference, which that one's there. Let's go ahead and do a build real quick. Make sure nothing going on here. Let's take a look at okay, so it built fine. No errors, no warnings. If I was to take a look at the program.cs for My Cool Console 4, we can see, those same kind of replacements. Yeah, I didn't pass in a name for the author description, so that's fine. But what we'll do now is let's go ahead and try and do this in Visual Studio, and then we'll run through it from there. All right, so we'll just let this kind of get loaded here. We'll do a search for Jax. Demo template. Yeah, that's the one. My awesome console. And then we'll do description from VS. We'll go ahead and create that. All right, so now this is basically going to create a new solution in the same kind of shape and same kind of content as what I had to begin with. Let's take another look at those replacements here. So if I were to go and look at the web app here, so in program.cs, I can see my awesome console. And then wherever else that shows up, that's wherever else that string shows up, it gets replaced everywhere inside the project, right? So, we don't care where that string is. We're just going to replace it. And we don't care what kind of project or what kind of file that is. They're all going to get replaced. And, the same for the console, for the class library, which is, I gave it a funny name. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but this is the shared library. And we can see the update's been done there too. So I think, wow, there is one additional thing that I forgot to mention here. Let me go back. So now let me explain something that maybe not everybody is aware of. So let me open up just VS Code here. It's fine. So let me open up the solution file. Okay, inside your solution file, you get a bunch of different things here, right? And the one that we're kind of interested in is the actual project ID. So inside this solution file, we can see that there's nodes for project, and there's two kind of GUIDs here. So the first GUID for each project is the project type GUID. So you don't want to mess with these. Just leave these all alone. If you mess with these, odds are something's going to get messed up. But the second GUID that's here, these are unique IDs for that particular project that was created, right? So you want to replace these GUIDs here. So this one GUID I want to replace, and then I also want to replace this GUID, and then this GUID as well. You can leave the ones for the solution folders. Those don't really matter. So let me go back to my template.json, which is edited in VS Code here, because I don't want to have to keep kind of opening and closing Visual Studio itself. All right, so now if I go back to my repository here, sorry. Earlier today, I just added a sample for this about the GUIDs, how to do the GUID replacement. So there's a special kind of top level support here for these GUIDs. Yeah, it's at the same level as source. Bring that, and so if I do GUIDs, and then we're going to just want to paste the 2 GUIDs that we have. Save that. Let me go back and let me grab those GUIDs here. And we said it was going to be this one. My project. I need 3 of these guys, huh? Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so let's grab this one. This is for the shared class library. That, and then we'll add a 3rd one. The other one. There's that one. There's the last one. So now, all right, great. So let's go ahead and save that. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, great. Okay. We are all set here. Let me reset my templates. I'm going to rebuild that Nuget package, obviously. Then I'm going to reinstall it. On the new -- install. So now if I was to go and take a look, let's go and take a look at that project that we just created. Yeah, let's use this one. That's fine. All right, so C user, Syed. Where is it? Source, repo, my awesome console. If I were to open this file up, we can I do a, yeah, okay, I can do that. Okay, great. Okay, so we can see that these IDs were just reused, right? So they didn't get replaced, right? So that's why we need to add that GUIDs kind of section there. All right, so I think I've done everything. I installed it, right? Okay, so I recreated my Nuget package. I reinstalled it. Let me make sure I saved all the files, which I believe I did. Just going to run through this one more time. All right, we're going to create this this project again. Just go with the defaults for now. You know, we already kind of went over all this stuff. So now, after this solution file gets created, I'm going to open it up in Visual Studio Code here, and we'll take a look to verify that it's not the same as. What do I even look? Oh, I just realized I opened the same file. Anyways, okay. All right, so this was the one that I just created, 722. Let's bring this guy up here. All right. Oh man, I didn't actually do it. Okay. All right. So this was one thing that I haven't. I did the README or whatever, but I didn't properly test it. So keep an eye on the README for what's the right approach. Why didn't that work? I don't. Trying to figure out why that didn't work. Did I do something wrong there? Let me just double check this real quick. Give me a second. Content template config solution GUIDs. That looks right to me. Why did that not work? I'm not sure why that one didn't work. Let me try one more thing. You know, sometimes when you're using these Nuget packages, you know, sometimes they will get cached in certain places. So you might actually have to blow it away or give it a new version here. So that's probably what I'll do is let me go and just give a new version on my new spec. No one. That Nuget package folder and delete the old one. Reset my templates. And I'm going to pack it. And then this pack should create a 1.0.1. Is that correct? Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, that's right. Okay, great. Okay, so now we'll do an install. That's the .1 version here. Let's try that. Let me close Visual Studio itself. We'll just do it from the command line itself. It doesn't really matter whether you do it from the command line or not, or Visual Studio. You'll get the same result there. That one created successfully. Let me open the folder. Yeah, it's way over here. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. All right, let me open. Where is it? Oh, I put it somewhere else. Fine. All right, let me open that one in the Visual Studio Code and see if those GUIDs got replaced or not. Yeah, so they didn't. So okay, that didn't work. Okay, so my bad. So that didn't work for some reason. So yeah, I will go back and figure that one out, and I'll make sure to update my my repository. I'll make sure to update the AKA link here, basically that's got all the content here. So That was something special that I was trying to do for you guys here, but I didn't kind of prep for that one enough, so I apologize about that. Totally my fault. I think that's really about it for the demo here. I mean, man, I think we covered a lot of stuff, and I think if you've tried to do these kind of things with VS Template before, you might have encountered significant difficulty in doing that, and I'm not trying to take away from the people who developed and maintained VS Template. Obviously that was a technology that had lived for a long time and also kind of served Visual Studio very well for probably 1 or 2 decades, I guess it is. But now's the time. It's just too difficult to use in this kind of modern environment here. So we needed something simpler. So that's what we've created here. So that's what I got, and got a bunch of links here as well. And I believe they're putting those links in the chat, and I'm interested to hear if there's any kind of questions or comments or anything. I'm here at your disposal.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks for speaking. Some great cool stuff there.
Yeah, thanks for having me, for sure.
Yeah, so we pasted those links in at the beginning, so they everybody has them there. So
okay,
right
great.
now, I'm not seeing any new questions in the chat window right now. But if anybody has some questions, go ahead and type them in real quick, and then we'll try to get them answered.
Yeah, and for the for the UI stuff, we're definitely working on that. Just kind of taking baby steps over here. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And obviously, I want to bring all this support into Visual Studio as well. And it's always my goal. I love templates, and I've been working with templates for years, almost a decade actually. So I definitely want to bring the kind of goodness to the template author as well, so you don't have to kind of live and work in the command line there. Yeah. And I see Adam there is looking forward to creating a template on his own for this weekend. So yeah, Adam, definitely reach out. And if you do create a template, I'm always interested in taking a look at what templates are being created by the community. So even if you don't have any questions or comments, you can at least tweet me and say, hey, Syed, I created this template. Will you go take a look at it? And I'll take a look at it and try it out if I have time and all that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely, if you want to reach me, just go to Twitter and just reach me over there, and I'll take a look at everything that you guys got going on and answer all the questions that I can answer as well. Yeah, and then so what was it saying? Look to be a way to construct ARM templates automatically. Yeah, that's right. So you can create any kind of files and any kind of templates that you want, and there's a .NET podcast, and the gentleman who runs that podcast, he actually has created his own .NET template just for his podcast. So what he does is he, like, before, when he's prepping for his show, he literally does .NET new podcast to kind of get the stub of his podcast going. So yeah, these files, and you can use whatever kind of files that you want. You're not limited to just like Microsoft related stuff here. Like, let's say if you wanted to create a Python template, or if you wanted to create a Perl template or a C++ template.
Xamarin template.
Well, the Xamarin templates, they're already actually created with Template Engine. But yeah, absolutely, right.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, you could create your own custom one if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. You can create whatever kind of files you want.
Or create an organizational one. Like if you're working for a company and you just want to make sure if everybody's starting a new app or something, just use this going forward type of thing. Have all your connections and everything set up.
Yeah, exactly. And then, for organizations, often I'll get asked the question, how do I share templates within my organization? So I think there's kind of 2 high-level ways of doing that. One way would be, let's say if you have a shared network folder, you can put all your Nuget packages on that network folder, and people can install from there. Or you can use MyGet for like a custom Nuget feed, or you can stand up your own Nuget server as well. And then you can put these Nuget packages there, and all this goodness will come to those custom feeds as well. But yeah, I think the kind of the sky's the limit here, and there's a lot of information inside this wiki as well for people. Let's say if you're kind of creating your template and you're trying to do something, first I would take a look at the ASP.NET, the ASP.NET templates here to see if they've done something kind of similar. And, if I didn't find anything there, then I would start taking a look through the wiki and And if you still don't find what you want, just create an issue on the .NET templating repository, and the team will kind of get back to you on that one. Okay, so why is the templating engine even a part of .NET if it's general purpose? Well, yeah, it's a general purpose tool, but we have, kind of fine-tuned it as well to recognize certain .NET related things, right? Like, for example, I mentioned, we know to exclude the bin, the obj, the .vs folder. We have special well-known value forms for things that happen in C#. Like, for example, the class name has a special, like a class name can't have a dot in it. It has to have an underscore. And then there's other files, that need to be all lowercase. So we got those things kind of pre-baked into .NET New. But with that being said, let's say if you had a whole different kind of platform and framework that you wanted to support, you can bring that same level of support, but you have to create some additional kind of JSON files. But at the end of the day, you can do the same thing. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. But I think the fundamental answer to the question is, we need an experience on the command line to create .NET projects, and I think that's the reason why it's built into it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's built into the SDK, not .NET itself, right? So I think there's a distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I'm hoping, maybe next time I'm presenting, we'll be in person or whatever and kind of go from there. So definitely more fun when it's in person, obviously, as opposed to doing everything virtual here. You know what I mean?
I know, right? We can throw tomatoes at you next time.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Normally people, they try to throw shoes at me.
Oh, no.
But, I've been...
in Florida, it's flip-flops, right?
Flip-flops. I'm pretty good to dodging those things, though, So, yeah, we'll see.
Hey, maybe we'll get some free food out of it, too.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions coming up. So I just want to thank you again for speaking. And then next month, if anybody is interested in a particular topic, go ahead and message us on Meetup or Twitter at JaxDUG, and we'll get something set up. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And we're out.